This is SportsCenter.
The 80s belonged to Larry and Magic, the 90s to Michael. Now it's time for a new number 23.
And there's his first assist, and it's a beauty.
Is a new king ready to rule the NBA?
When I see this tape 20 years from now, I became one of the greatest players to play the game. When I see this tape 20 years from now, I became one of the greatest players to play the game. When I see this tape 20 years from now, I became one of the greatest players to play the game.
With the first pick in the 2003 NBA Draft, the Cleveland Cavaliers select LeBron James.
There he is with his mom, Gloria. Gloria sacrificed a lot, gave birth to LeBron when she was 16. On their own at 19, living on assistance, food stamps, and here they are just a short time later. $100 million in contract, endorsements in basketball, and LeBron James makes a great American story. Makes a great American story.
Makes a great American story.
The big winner of the NBA Draft Lottery, the Cleveland Cavaliers. As it came down to the final pick, Russ Granick, the deputy commissioner, pulled out the Cleveland Cavaliers card. And what a man, Gordon Dunn, visually impaired, the owner of this team. He's given so much to the Cleveland area over the year, and there he holds the LeBron James jersey. They've made it very clear that the high school phenom from 40 miles down the road in Akron would be their number one pick, and LeBron James joins us live from Akron, Ohio. Did you want Cleveland to have the number one pick, thus you could stay home, LeBron?
Yeah, I think it's going to be great for me. You know, also for my family that they ain't got to travel across the country to come watch me play. And, you know, growing up, you know, watching the Cavs was great, you know, because it was during the Jordan era. And I think it's going to be great to get to know some teammates, and hopefully we can get better.
Carmelo Anthony is in his home in Baltimore, and Carmelo Anthony is going to join us on a three-way here as we speak to him. Carmelo, your reaction to what's going on with LeBron, his opportunity to stay at home there in Ohio?
Well, I'm just saying I understand that the Cleveland Cavaliers got the number one pick, so I'm assuming that they're going to take him, but I mean, we going to see on June 26th.
At the NBA Draft, which we'll have on ESPN. Carmelo, do you and LeBron speak tonight after the lottery was done?
Yeah, I talked to him while the lottery was going on, and I kind of knew that Cleveland was going to get the number one pick, so I think they rigged it. Now, don't quote me on that, though, man. I kind of knew that Cleveland was going to get the number one pick, so I think they rigged it. Now, don't quote me on that, though, man.
I kind of knew that Cleveland was going to get the number one pick, so I think they rigged it. Now, don't quote me on that, though, man.
The LeBron James story has already been written and sketched in stone since the beginning of time, just like all the other stories told of the characters that we have been wired to worship throughout our lifetime, aside from the scripted stories. The numbers that we see throughout society, such as our clocks, game stats, etc., have all spoken a language that only the higher-ups can comprehend. As the elites are gradually reaching the new world order, which is the return of Lucifer, they will no longer hide the truth in plain sight, will just be blatant with their evilness as the sheep follow. The films that we've consumed since birth and believed to be fictional with created monsters were always real the entire time. LeBron James is far from a human being like the rest of us. Even people such as Nikola Tesla has admitted to being from another planet. The elites have always revealed this in a sneaky way. For instance, let's take the rapper Lil Wayne for example. One of his famous sayings in his songs are, "We are not the same, I am a Martian. I mean, for crying out loud." The man even has an album titled I Am Not a Human Being, released right after his album titled Rebirth. I believe that we are amongst either aliens, robots, or some form of demonic creatures. Lebron James is a character who is more than capable of being able to morph into other creatures, just like the character from the TV show Lucifer. Listen to this clip of Lebron during a game where he was sidelined as he was experiencing muscle spasms. Listen to how it sounds as if Lebron has a demon inside him.
Eventually was carried to the Heat bench. Now we're trying to get an update as they work on his right leg.
What many people don't know is that there is a never-ending rabbit hole. Once the higher-ups send out their so-called puppets to expose one agenda, they're distracting us from the next. The story of LeBron James has many parallels with the story of the real King James and his version of the Bible. It also contains elements that are taken directly from the story of Saint James from the Bible, who was also considered as one of Jesus Christ's disciples. All of LeBron James' iconic moments were all 100% scripted, and they were also similar storylines copied straight from the Bible. The Bible was written and created by the higher-ups. These iconic moments are rituals as they pay homage to the Freemasonry teachings and to venerate the sun god. LeBron James' first half of his career was a prime example of how the elites used Bible references to narrate his career. In his first stint with the Cleveland Cavaliers, LeBron was hailed as the chosen one, just like how Jesus is considered the chosen one of God. After trying to carry his team to the promised land, he failed many times. He then signed with the Miami Heat. Like hell is hot heat, as he transformed into Satan, which is the exact story of Lucifer. He was then crucified by the media and the fans after winning 2 rings. Him returning to Cleveland was his resurrection. My theory is that LeBron James will return back to Cleveland to play with the Cavs. This will symbolize the second return of Jesus Christ. As mentioned earlier, LeBron's career was scripted to be an exact replica of King James, who was also a false god leader and was a complete fraud, who was also exposed for being a bisexual man, which is what will happen to LeBron James as well. This is why photos are surfacing throughout the internet of LeBron donning a dress like they wore in past times. Another biblical reference and riddle is that King James' mother name was Mary. Like how Jesus' mother name was Mary, LeBron attended St. Mary's High School. Even LeBron's mother name was biblical, Gloria, which derives from the word glory. Gloria James' middle name is Marie. which is also biblical as well and is said to be the French version of the name Mary. King James came along and received tons of backlash for revising his own version of the Bible. And here came LeBron aka King James, who was also demonized for rewriting the game and doing it his way. The NBA arenas serve as what one would call the metaphorical version of the Christian church and ancient Greek theater of Epidaurus, where hundreds upon thousands of fans all over the world come together to worship these so-called created gods. But these weird connections go beyond what's on the surface, such as LeBron James' wife Savannah James, and the deeper meaning as to why the higher-ups gave her the name Savannah and why she was chosen to be aligned with LeBron in the first place. And it's not just because LeBron married his high school sweetheart, but here's why. Savannah, maiden name was originally Brinson. Brinson is a town in Decatur, Georgia. The Georgia General Assembly incorporated the place as the town of Brinson back in 1907. What is the Georgia General Assembly? The Georgia General Assembly is the state legislature of the United State of Georgia. But guess what was the first state of the assembly? Savannah. There is little to no background on Savannah's parents to know whether or not they were originally from the state of Georgia, which is why she was given the name Savannah. It's just said that Savannah was born in Akron, Ohio. Savannah is the oldest city in the state of Georgia. The city was founded by James Edward Oglethorpe, who was from England. He also founded the still active Solomon's Masonic Lodge back in 1734. James was born 8 days before LeBron James was born, and he was named after James II, similar to how LeBron was given the name King James after King James. James II was the younger brother of Charles II, but keep the name Charles in mind. There were many wars that had taken place back during those times. The NBA playoffs and NBA finals are grand stages where multiple teams battle against one another to recreate these scripted historical moments, using times and dates to pay homage to the Masons and their beliefs. For example, like when the Miami Heat, who LeBron James once played for, faced off against the Indiana Pacers in the playoffs. This scripted storyline dates all the way back to the James Edwards era, as he had formed an alliance with the Indians in order to establish the city Savannah in the state of Georgia. James negotiated with the Yamacraw Indians, becoming the colony's ambassador to native tribes. He negotiated with Tomakachi, who was the chief of the Indian Yamacraw tribe. It's also said that Tomakachi's land was stolen by James to build the city of Savannah in Georgia. James once led the British troops in Georgia against Spanish forces based in Florida. In 1740, he also led a lengthy siege of St. Augustine, but keep the name Augustine in mind as well. In 1742, he led his force in defeat of Spain. That same year, a guy by the name of William Stevens was named President of Georgia. Now that you got that brief history lesson, we can now gather all the names mentioned and put together this riddle. As mentioned, the Miami Heat often battled against the Indiana Pacers in the NBA Eastern Conference playoffs. James founded the Solomon's Masonic Lodge. When bringing up the name Solomon, one would instantly think of the name Solomon in the Bible. The Indiana Pacers once had a player by the name of Solomon Hill, who once played for the Indiana Pacers when LeBron James faced off against them in the NBA playoffs. It's also mentioned there was a siege in St. Augustine, and the Indiana Pacers had a player on their team by the name of DJ Augustine, and it was also said that there was a man with the last name Stevens who took over as president after James. Stevens could be short for Stevenson, like Lance Stevenson, who also played on that very same Indiana Pacers team that battle against LeBron James in the playoffs, as they would establish an individual rivalry. Indiana is the home of the Pacers, and Indiana is known as the home of the Indians, like how James Edwards worked with the Indians. Upon further research, James Edward formed an incredibly close bond with King George II, but my theory is, here's where the elites created a plot twist, so instead they had the King LeBron James go against George, as in Paul George, in the Eastern Conference Finals. But James Edwards teamed up with the Indians to battle against the Spaniards, similar to how LeBron King James had to go through the Indiana Pacers in order to face the San Antonio Spurs in the NBA Finals, in which San Antonio is mostly a Spanish town. But the script of the LeBron James story really isn't that deep, and it really isn't that hard to tell that his entire existence was staged. The elites have been absolutely blatant and are now making it completely obvious that LeBron's career is in fact scripted, especially most recently with the news that LeBron James won the Razzie Award for the worst acting performance in the film Space Jam 2. But don't just take my word for it. Even LeBron James himself confessed in an interview that his life is like a motion picture.
I feel like every season for me is just like it's like a movie. Every season is like a movie, and I'm like living in it. Like I'm the star in the movie. Like it feels dope as shit. I'm just like, man, Black Panther, all them, not all of them, every single, like I feel that way.
And the sheep have become increasingly suspicious as well. As of late, the sheep have been starting to sense that something is highly suspicious with how our society operates, and are starting to realize it's all WWE, and that the world around us is staged. But it shouldn't come as some big surprise. They have always put the truth right in front of us. It's just that we have been programmed to be infatuated with sports, that we didn't see the hints all along. According to the LeBron James story, LeBron's so-called biological father is a man by the name of Anthony McClellan. However, there are no records that shows he's really LeBron's dad. Back in 2010, there was a man by the name of Lester Bryce Stovall, who ironically somehow has the same middle name as LeBron James's middle son, Bryce, which is an obvious riddle. His middle name is Bryce and LeBron's son is the middle child. Allegedly, he sued them claiming to be his biological father, and that Gloria James lied about it for years. The story originally broke by one of the most CIA-controlled outlets, but clearly it was all a part of the magic trick to use misdirection and smoke screens to distract us from seeing that this dog and pony show is all theater. In the documents, It states that a few days after a phone call that Lester had with Gloria James, Lester claims that Lebron, through his lawyer, agreed to take a paternity test. Lester claims that he was given results, showing that he was not Lebron's biological father, but several months later. Lester says he began to suspect that the results were tampered with and that Gloria and Lebron were behind the fraud. But did you hear the key word? Fraud. He stated that Gloria James purposely kept him away to upkeep Lebron's image as a successful fatherless child from the projects. Lester also claims that Gloria James had fabricated what you see in parentheses, which I feel was them clearly, indicating and alluding Lebron's story is fabricated, but says Gloria fabricated a story about LeBron's real father, Anthony McClellan, for the one-dimensional commercial for image-making purposes, to make LeBron's life suggestive of Spike Lee's popular 1998 film He Got Game. Now, to the average human, what would stand out the most is Lester's request for money. Instead of getting to know his son, perhaps the test proved he was LeBron's biological father. However, my theory is that Lester's request for money was simply just diversion. This would instantly make fans dismiss his claims because it leads fans to believe he just wants LeBron's money. But the money being thrown around, it distracts the mind's attention away from the fact that he highlighted Gloria had fabricated the story of LeBron's so-called real biological father, Anthony McClellan, being his real dad, and that Lester himself is not his real dad either. So if Anthony isn't LeBron's dad, and Lester isn't LeBron's dad either, then who could it be? A mystery. But one must think they wouldn't have just mentioned the movie He Got Game for no apparent reason. So let's take a closer look into the plot of the film He Got Game. The plot is just a mashed up version of LeBron's story, but of course with many plot twists. The film is about a character by the name of Jesus Shuttlesworth, in which the name in itself is very telling, considering the name Jesus, which is biblical and with the real King James, who recreated the Bible and pretended to walk in his image, who believed he's in the same light as God, which is why he named the Bible after himself. The irony in all this is, the character who starred in the film as Jesus Shuttlesworth is a former NBA player by the name of Ray Allen. Ironically, Ray Allen is in Jesus, would eventually join teams with King James. In the film, Jesus was the #1 ranked high school prospect in the country. Jesus had a younger sister by the name Mary. Jesus' father, played by Denzel Washington, had been incarcerated and upon release wanted to establish a bond with his son Jesus. However, Jesus had no interest whatsoever. Jesus' father needed his son to sign a letter of intent so that he could be released. Jesus' father would then fabricate a work release to the media in order to escape prison. This is eerily a twisted up series of plot twists that ties into other films that connect to the LeBron James story. It's said that LeBron's so-called father, Anthony McClellan, who was also incarcerated and had supposedly changed his name to a guy by the name of Roland Bivens, it was said that he faked his death to avoid going back to prison. But before we continue, let's rewind back to see if you caught on to who played the role of Jesus Shuttlesworth's little sister Mary in the film He Got Game. Who played Mary was a young female by the name of Zelda Harris, who is mostly known for her role in the popular film Crooklyn, that was also written by Spike Lee as well. Zelda took on the matriarchal role once her mother in the film passed away. Funny enough, after filling her mother's shoes and taking care of her little brothers and the house in the film Crooklyn, in her very next film He Got Game, she was given the name Mary, which so happens to be the name of the real Jesus' mother. Ironically, Zelda's father in the film Crooklyn was a man by the name of Delroy Lindo. Delroy Lindo has been the butt of many jokes and memes. Delroy has been clowned for looking just like LeBron James, and is a running joke that he could be LeBron's long-lost father. But Jesus' mother, in the film He Got Game, had died due to a tussle that her and Jesus' father got into, as she defended her son after she felt that Jake, Jesus' father, was being too hard on him. He pushed her, and as a result she died, mysteriously. Delroy and the mother on the film Crooklyn also got into a tussle as well, when Delroy defended his son, who was deeply in love with basketball. Delroy also starred in another film that was also written by Spike Lee as well, which was the Malcolm X movie. The main actor in the film was Denzel Washington, who starred in the film He Got Game, as they both were Zelda fathers, but in the film Malcolm X, Delroy played a character by the name of West Indian Archie, who ran a local numbers game, which is an illegal gambling spot in the bar. He and Malcolm X would become very close friends, but one night, Malcolm claimed to have won a bet on a winning number. Archie disputed it. He denied Malcolm a large sum of money. A conflict ensued and Malcolm returned to Boston after an attempt on his life. Ironically, it's said that LeBron's alleged father, who we'll go into more detail about, but his so-called father Roland Bivens, was said to have been killed due to gambling as well, with a Malcolm X connection. Now we see why LeBron loves to do his best Malcolm X impression. Lastly, Delroy Lindo has a son who plays basketball, who once attended St. Mary's High School, like LeBron. But let's go back and go more into detail about LeBron's so-called biological father, who supposedly changed his name to Roland Bivens. I decided to peel back layer by layer, just to see how deep this wicked rabbit hole goes. So I decided to do more investigating on the name Roland Bivens. What I found was information about a man named Robert Penn from Akron, Ohio, whose parole was denied for killing Roland Bivens after a card game argument. He was then convicted of shooting Bivens in 1994. Penn got into an argument with Bivens, who was 29 at the time. Keep in mind that this tragic event transpired in March of 1994. I'll explain my reasoning for bringing that up later in the video, but it's said that Penn went outside where he hid in a vehicle and then fired several shots at Bivens and killed him. But this is where the plot gets more eerie than you ever could imagine, because it's said that Roland Bivens' mother told Beacon Journal in 1994 that she visits her son in Mount Peace Cemetery quite often. But take a wild guess what Bivens' mother name is. Gloria J. Just like LeBron James' mother, and it's even written on Bivens' tombstone. It couldn't be more obvious that Gloria James is not LeBron's biological mother, and that LeBron is not a human being. I also don't shut the door on the idea that Bivens was killed in cold blood. so that LeBron could take Bivens' background and identity and use that to build a billion-dollar entity without being sued by the Bivens family. However, I just think it's a little far less complex than that. It's simple. LeBron's life was scripted, and he's actually Bivens in disguise, and we were being fooled as always. I also think that LeBron could be Jordan's father as well.
Do you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters.
Are you the tallest one in the family? Not as tall? How does that work?
I'm the tallest. My father's about 5'10", my mother's about 5'5".
Whoa.
Everyone else is about 5'6.5", 5'7". The milkman's about 6'7". The milkman's about 6'7".
The milkman's about 6'7". No. Anthony McClellan was taken into custody back in 2002 on charges for theft and arson, just like it was said about Jordan's father killers as well. Ironically, Anthony McClellan was taken into custody in 2002, and Michael Jordan's second return to the Washington Wizards was in 2002 in D.C., and the man Lester Stovall, claiming to be LeBron's father, stated that him and Gloria met in D.C. at a local club called the Space Bar. I also think it's worth mentioning that this is actually a picture of Roland Bivens and not Anthony McClellan. Bivens was a basketball star just like LeBron, but clearly, as you can see, here are the elites deceiving us once again, because anyone with eyes can see that these are 2 totally different people. But we have been fooled to believe that this is supposedly the same person in Roland Bivens. And throughout the internet, people have also been tricked into thinking that this is Anthony McClellan. But once again, this is more misdirection by the elites to keep fans from doing their own research and just accept what the elites push, which is, this is who we say LeBron's dad is. They even brought the guy back right in front of our faces. Anthony McClellan is said to have another son, who is supposedly LeBron's stepbrother, whose name is Aaron McClellan Gamble. But notice that Aaron has 2 last names, one being Gamble, which I believe is a twist to the riddle of both Jordan and LeBron's father both dying due to gambling. But just when you thought this wild goose chase couldn't get any weirder, then guess again. But there is another man who is alleged to be LeBron's father, who is also from Washington, D.C., but is considered a running joke because supposedly he slept with LeBron's mom, Delonte West. As explained in our LeBron versus Jordan riddle video, the LeBron and Jordan connection goes far deeper than basketball, and their careers are in sync with one another, but seems to be reversed. Isn't it quite odd how LeBron's middle name is Raymond, but his last name is James, and Jordan's father basically has LeBron's name but it's backwards, which is James Raymond. Bivens was killed 1 year after Michael Jordan's father was killed. Delonte Maurice West was born July 26, which so happened to be 3 days after Jordan's father passed, and is 5 days before Jordan's father's birthday, but it doesn't stop there. There was also another man who was alleged to be LeBron's father who also played in the NBA for the Cavs, Nate Thurmond. Nate Thurmond's birthday was July 25th, a day before Delonte West's birthday, and 6 days before Jordan's dad's birthday. The year MJ was born was the year Nate was drafted to the NBA, and the year LeBron was born. MJ was drafted. Nate played for the Cavs and Bulls. LeBron's career has always mirrored Jordan's. Now, to the average human, they would think that this is because LeBron, like Kobe, wanted to be like MJ so much that they emulated Jordan's moves and career path down to a T. However, the comparisons and the way things are lined up with scores, dates, etc., makes it hard to believe that that's the case. Jordan came back, but would then retire for good in 2003, and the birth of LeBron's NBA career would begin in 2003. If you remove the 2 zeros in the year 2003, you get 23, which is Jordan and LeBron's jersey numbers. One of MJ's rivals was the Cleveland Cavaliers, and ironically LeBron would be drafted there. LeBron often faced the Bulls, who Jordan once played for in the playoffs, but somehow these iconic moments seem to mirror each other but in reverse. For instance, in one of Jordan's biggest games versus the Cavs, May 7th, Game 5, MJ hit what would become the clutch shot. Jordan would hit the shot over Craigie Lowe, who wore the jersey number 3 in the Cavs arena Game 5. 26 years later, LeBron would hit a clutch shot against the Chicago Bulls Game 4 in the semifinals against Jimmy Butler number 21 in the Bulls arena. There were so many biblical references and obstacles that LeBron had to overcome all throughout the playoffs, such as rose, like rose from the dead, as in resurrection, Noah, like Noah's Ark, Muhammad, etc. MJ 89 playoff run ended by losing to the Pistons. LeBron would start the playoffs the following season by defeating the Pistons. One of Jordan's teams would break a record for most wins in a season by going 72-10. LeBron would defeat the team in the finals that broke the Bulls' record in the Golden State Warriors, who went 73-9. MJ did Space Jam 1. LeBron did Space Jam 2. MJ also wore the jersey number 9. LeBron wore the number 6, which is 9 downside up. MJ jersey number 23 was retired with the Heat for no logical reason. LeBron played with the Heat and will have his jersey retired there. And remember, it was also rumored that LeBron could potentially sign with the Bulls as well. MJ, first game ever against the Cavs, took place December 27, 1984, which so happened to be 3 days before LeBron's birthday on the 30th, and was the 30th game of the season. LeBron's second time playing the Bulls took place December 26, 2003, and was also the 30th game of the season. MJ started his college career playing alongside James Worthy, who would be drafted to the Lakers in 1982. LeBron, 36 years later, would join the Lakers and could potentially end his career there, but LeBron ended his Cavs career playing with Jordan Clarkson, who changed his number to 8. Jordan Clarkson was originally drafted to the Washington Wizards back in 2014, which is the same team that Jordan retired from back in 2002. Jordan Clarkson currently plays for the team that Jordan hit the famous last shot against before his second retirement in the Utah Jazz in 1998. But guess what Jordan Clarkson's father name is? This should be easy. His name is Michael Clarkson, better known as Mike. His name is Mike. And yes, Mike's son is Jordan. Do you get it? Jordan played against Larry Nance Sr. LeBron played with Jordan, and Larry Nance Jr. and Jordan could return to the Lakers. Specific moments in LeBron's life that have eerie correlations to Jordan's career and life are often highlighted, such as the year 84 the year 2003, and even the closeness in death between Jordan's dad and LeBron's alleged father. But one year in particular that is never mentioned is the year 1998, which was the year of MJ's second retirement. But where was LeBron? The plot in the film Space Jam 2 starts LeBron's career off in 1998, which is when MJ retired. But what many people don't know is that there was a James who played for the Cavaliers before LeBron. The 97-98 year that Jordan retired, mysteriously, there was a player who also ended his career with the Cavs that same year as well. His name was Henry James. Later on in this film, I'll go more in depth on why Henry and LeBron James were both chosen, keyword, chosen, to join the Cavs. But Henry James was drafted to the Cavs and wore the jersey number 32, which is 23 backwards. James also attended St. Mary's High School as well. He was drafted the same year that MJ won his first championship, then joined the Kings when MJ retired. Then the following season joined the Utah Jazz. The Utah Jazz was the last team that MJ faced before his second retirement. Then the following season, Henry James joined the Los Angeles Clippers, but not the Lakers like LeBron. I guess the elites figured that would be too damn obvious. Henry would only play 7 seasons in the NBA, but in his final season he ended his career with the Cavs, and coincidentally, he retired the same year Jordan retired in 97-98, and retired at the age 32. Now, there's a deeper meaning behind why Henry and LeBron were both chosen to join the Cavs, and it's not because LeBron was born there. What is a Cavalier? The term Cavalier was used by Roundheads, who fought against King Charles of England and his supporters, known as the Cavaliers or Royalists, who claimed rule by absolute monarchy and the principle of the divine right of kings. What is a monarch? A person who reigns over a kingdom or empire. What is absolute monarchy? Is when the king or queen is by no means limited and has absolute power and not restrained by laws, which is why they famously call LeBron, La GM. These are often hereditary monarchies, which is why Bronny James is chosen next to take the king's throne. King Charles and his supporters were all considered Cavaliers, and was born into the House of Stuart as the son of none other than King James VI, which made him a Cavalier also. King James was the successor of King Charles, and do you know who King Charles' brother was? King Henry, better known as Henry Frederick the Prince of Wales. And now you see why Henry James was chosen first to join the Cavaliers, and then entered LeBron James. To the average person, LeBron being drafted to his hometown team was sold as a dream come true, because they put out what they want for you to think. LeBron's career has been full of comical riddles. Many of these riddles are never taken in the literal sense, which is why we never catch on, such as his first coach Mike Brown, who originally coached the King, now coach the Kings, and the same with Luke Walton before he was fired. Mike Brown came back to coach the Cavs, but was fired, and that same year, the teenage boy, Mike Brown, died in St. Louis. Shots were fired, get it, fired, into him, as LeBron voiced his frustration. This was months before LeBron went back to the Cavs. LeBron also played with Matt Ryan, LeBron's so-called best friend Dwayne Wade, better known as D-Wade, decided to join LeBron in the Cavs back in 2017. How cool. That years later, after D-Wade left, they bring in D-Wade. LeBron also played with another player by the name of Chris Bosh, who's known for his wild and freakish gestures and behavior. But let's look up the definition of a Bosh, something regarded as absurd nonsense. James' sports writer buddy looks much like the actor Jonah Hill. Get it? Actor. He came into the league with David Stern, the commissioner, who stood stern on his decisions, like vetoed trades, etc. The LeBron James steroid allegations began back in 2011. They are resurfacing for a reason. My theory is that the elites intend on letting the cat out of the bag about how LeBron's life and career was all manufactured and staged. I believe they had every intention, from the beginning of his career, of building his character up, breaking every NBA record and winning championships, just to tear him down, as they normalize a losing and cheating mindset. But the elites have always warned us about LeBron being on PEDs early in his career. Read this huge title, The Godfather of Steroids. They say that pictures can say 1,000 words, and in so many words, based upon LeBron's face and body language, this picture screams shame and guilt. My theory is that the elites were putting the truth right in plain sight, plotting, and even knew back then they would expose him for being on performance enhancement drugs. The interesting thing is that both LeBron James and the baseball player Jose Canseco are often associated with the number 4. Jose's nickname is Mr. 40, hitting 40 home runs and stole 40 bases. LeBron won 4 MVPs and will be exposed at 40 for PEDs.